Well, hi everybody, meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Welcome to the Joe Chaffee Show on this 30th, the next to last day of December and the next to last day of 2019. Joe Rayo is supposed to join me, but he's not answering the Skype yet. So I left him a message to get back to me ASAP. So as soon as he does, we will, of course, bring him into the chat. So, the talk of the day has got to be these thunderstorms. And they popped up this afternoon in eastern Pennsylvania, and then they've kind of run their course up the Hudson Valley and through Connecticut. And I know a lot of you have mentioned it to me. I got quite a few messages: thunder, lightning, heavy rain, and then going over to heavy sleet in a lot of places. So in some areas, in some areas that were really not supposed to get much of anything other than rain, got into those thunderstorms, and that was enough dynamic cooling. The funny thing is that the Storm Prediction Center today did actually indicate a marginal area of risk from mainly central New Jersey southward, and they kind of got rid of that this afternoon, but all the thunderstorms actually wound up forming north of there and pushing on up to the northeast. So that was a definitely a surprise for most. And in fact, let's take a look. We're going to start off with the radars tonight. We'll do that, and let me get the let's get that window up there. Where are we? Okay, there we go. So this is the actual latest radar loop. I'm going to also bring up some of the local radars in a moment. But you've got the main storm sitting up in northern Michigan. So everything that you see going on up in northern Wisconsin and on the upper peninsula of Michigan is with the main low, and the secondary low is developing just off the New Jersey coast. And we pretty much had the triple point of the warm front, cold front, and the occluded front moved on through. So it was sort of right very close to that triple point area that we saw these thunderstorms just kind of blossom up. And you see them now moving across into Massachusetts, into the eastern half of Massachusetts and southern New Hampshire. Certainly some heavier downpours in there, and of course in the colder air, there's freezing rain, and in areas further north where it's cold enough, also some snow going on, at least through parts of Maine. So again, nice little surprise here. I'll punch up a couple of, let's go to a couple of local radar views, and we'll see what we have. And by the way, we still have ice storm warnings up for the Catskills and winter weather advisories, Northeast PA. You've got some winter weather advisories in between those ice storm warnings at the Catskills and the ice storm warnings that are up for the Berkshires. And then it goes back to advisories to the east across Connecticut and Massachusetts, a small area in northeast Massachusetts that's under an ice storm warning. And then you have winter storm warnings up in north of I-90, southern Vermont, all of New Hampshire, most of Maine, with advisories surrounding that on either side. And while we have the map up, we have still winter storm warnings up for much of central and northern Wisconsin, the upper peninsula of Michigan, northeastern Minnesota, advisories surrounding that. And out in the west, we have new winter storm watches up for northern Utah, parts of Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana, with advisories surrounding that area. So busy night with one dying system and another one that's come into the northwest that we're looking at. So let me just pull up a few of these local radars here. In the meantime, let me see what's going on with let me give Rayo another ring. Okay, so that's the da-da, da-da, da-da-da. All right. We're trying to get Joe Rayo here. Okay, so he's not in for whatever reason. I don't know if he forgot or if he's got something going on up there. But we'll move on in the meantime. We use the Upton radar as of 7:05. We've got some heavy downpours moving across eastern Long Island and the eastern half of Connecticut, but the heavy stuff is done. Looks like there's a thunderstorm or at least a really heavy downpour coming out of Hartford there. I bet you, I'm thinking that's leftover thunderstorm cell that came across, actually moved right along Route 84 or just south of Route 84 in from Rockland County over to Danbury and then northeastward from there. On up to the north, we're looking at this is from Boston, looking at their radar, and you can see there's some pretty hefty weather going on between Boston and Worcester, back to about Springfield. Also, some heavy weather further north near Concord and up near Manchester and Portsmouth, and they'll go up another radar shot to Portland, Maine's radar. Look at that big cell there outside of Portland. Look, whoa, that's impressive to see it that far north. I got to let's pull up some obs. I don't think we're gonna have the 7 o'clocks in yet, but at least off the 6 o'clock obs. Let's see what we've got. So Portland was light snow in 28. How much you want to bet when that whatever that was that went over Portland in the last hour that they went to heavy snow for a while? Actually, moderate at 6 p.m. Portland was moderate at a half a mile, and you've got a couple of spots. 1 mile at Sanford, 1 mile at Freiburg. Just guessing. If I said it wrong, somebody let me know. Flurries at Waterville. Temperatures mostly in the 20s, so we know it's cold there. New Hampshire, raining in Portsmouth at 34. 25 in Rochester, 27 in Nashua, 1 mile visibilities in both. Manchester at 3/4, Laconia, no visibility, 24 there with fog, 3/4 at Jaffrey. Vermont, light sleet at Burlington, 33, raining in Boston, 39, mixed precip at Worcester. Here he is. Hang on. Are you with us?
Hello.
You know what? Try again because I answered you on the app and I can't.
All right.
Hang on. I'm gonna. Yeah, call me back. All right. He's here. He remembered. So he's going to dial back. Anyway, pretty impressive. Weird. Okay. I hear noises. Can you put your video up?
Oh, wait a minute. I have a little.
Because we are live, you know.
I have a little doohickey on my a lens
Oh,
cap.
well, between the doohickey and the thingamajig, we got issues. So there he is, everybody. La Rayo has arrived. I got to ask you right off the bat. Uh, did you get any of those thunderstorms that came across?
Absolutely.
And
We got some very potent thunderstorms combined with some very, very heavy rain. Didn't see any hail or any icy precipitation, but uh, yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself, was that thunder? And all of a sudden, both.
yeah, I had a few folks. One of my snow guys that is in Rockland County messaged me. Actually, one of my friends, my friend Hank, who's in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, messaged me first that he had heard a huge clap of thunder and heavy rains that followed and sleet. Then from there, my one of my snow buddies in Rockland County uh, reported. Then one of my snow guys in Danbury, Connecticut, told me the same. Yeah, I was having a little bit of difficulty being that it was a thunderstorm because well, hail is interchangeably used for sleet, which is one of the most, in my view, one of the wrongest things or most wrong things you can do. I love in the wintertime when people come up and say to me, "Oh, it's hailing out," and I just really want to, I don't know, gently remind them that it's sleet. It's not hail. There's a difference. But now I'm not so sure with these thunderstorms. Was it actually hail or was it sleet?
I was watching actually the Weather Channel.
Oh, what do
They
they know?
Yeah, well, they had a reporter that was up in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Right.
It was a severe thunderstorm warning posted, and they were talking about hail up to an inch in diameter.
Oh,
An inch in
nice.
diameter, Joe.
Then it must have been hail.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
it's
Joseph Gallo said had really heavy thunder in Rockland County about 3:20. Mrs. Rayo is on the chat board too, so I'm sure she'll. No one said the audios are fine tonight, so whatever. Adding that the earbuds for me and capping that off apparently fix the audio issue. Small pea
Mrs.
size
Ray was the
hail.
reason why. By the way, Mrs. Ray was the reason why I was late. She made a wonderful rack of ribs tonight,
Oh,
and
nice.
I
I
was just
was
sitting there.
wondering. I was wondering because that wonderfully sharp camera that your daughter got you, that
Yes.
there's like I don't know, there's like a little bit of an what looks like a little sauce stain on your lip. And I was trying to decide whether that was pasta induced or, but hey, ribs are ribs. That's awesome.
Yeah, they were quite and about 6:59 looked at my watch and I said, "Whoa."
Well, then you had to run. Well, you could have finished your dinner. You
Well,
could have
anyway,
brought
here I
some. You could have also brought down some for the rest of the class.
am.
Renata says heavy rains, lots of thunder, 36 out, total of 1.09 inches.
Right. We have a Davis, one of those Davis weather stations that's mounted on a mast out in the yard here. And the interesting thing about that is that whenever we have torrential rain, on the little screen it runs a message that says it's raining cats and dogs. And for about 15 minutes, it was raining cats and dogs to beat the band. Really.
Mariko Brown asked this question: how does hail form in the summertime when it's hot, and why doesn't it melt?
Well, the hail is a product of something that happens up in the upper atmosphere. You can have ice crystal clouds in the middle of the summertime at 20 or 25,000 feet. At that altitude, it's going to be below freezing. And you get these little bits, little particles, little particulate matter that begin the process as it begins to fall to Earth. A little layer of ice forms. Then you have an updraft that pushes it back up into the colder section, the colder layer, gets a little heavier, comes back down again. A little
And
bit
on
of
it goes until it gets
a
heavy enough
little
to
layering
fall.
takes place. Yes, dear. My my wife just handed. There you go.
Okay, that's all.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Makeup.
Thank
Where's
you.
the big powder puff? What was that on Laughing that they had the
That
makeup?
started with Milton Berle,
Oh, it
actually.
was Milton Berle. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, go right. So hail and sleet are two different things.
Right.
A hail is basically you get a raindrop that falls, it freezes into a little ice cube, and it hits the ground. And the thunderstorm, it keeps lifting up, collecting more water, refreezing until it forms all these layers, and then it gets heavy enough to fall, as Joe explained. Now, this system, I don't know. I did see some pictures by Joe. What's for dessert, by the way?
Uh, nothing for dessert at the moment.
Oh, but
But
she's
you know,
got she's
she's a
got time to go and whip up something similar, simple like an 8-layer butter pecan
ah,
cake.
ah. Well, whenever you come up here, I'm sure that you'll have something of that magnitude
Well,
for.
don't do the cake. Oh, that'll kill me.
Yeah.
I mean, it will. The 800 calories a slice, because that's what it was. It was just amazing.
Yes.
It was probably, and I'm not a big fan of cake. So if I eat a piece of cake, it's got to be good. This thing was insane. Anyway, so I did see some pictures from up around the Albany area. where there was some elevation, and the ice in some places looked pretty impressive, as much as an inch thick. In other places, not so much. So there was a lot of variability. I don't know if you saw anything today regarding that.
I didn't, but I think our guy up in Albany is Tim Veltman, and I guess he
Yes.
probably would have a firsthand view as to what was going on up in the Capital District of New York State.
I'm sure Tim will post something in the chat. Dave Silverstein, he's in Putney, Vermont, 28 and sleet there.
Yeah,
And
it's well, we didn't miss out too much here. I mean, here in Putnam Valley, Joe, when it was coming down hard, temperature here was 35.
yeah,
You know, we were playing it very close to trouble. 3 more degrees, and we could have had a real problem right here at the home base.
well,
But
I'm down close
thankfully,
to, on Long Island, so I'm down closer to the coast. It got to low 40s here barely, and that's where it's been all day. It been hovering around or just over the 40-degree mark. We did get some heavy rain go through here in the last couple of hours, and that has settled down. And now the back edge, as I was just showing everybody on the local radars, seems to have moved out. By the way, let me bring this back up because I don't know if I had this up before you came on. I had the Portland, Maine radar. Take a look at this. Hang on one second. I'll bring it up on the screen.
I could tell
And
you that I got a phone call a couple hours ago from Peter Geiger, who is the editor in chief of the Farmer's Almanac, and he just called to wish me happy New Year. But he also said that, man, that snow was really coming down hard. It wasn't a blizzard because it was coming down straight down. There was not much wind, if any wind at all. But he said it looked very, very pretty outside of his window.
look at this Portland. This is Portland, Maine radar. Look at the first few frames, Joe. I don't know if you could see it. But that must have been some cell that developed there just north of Portland. And now it's kind of weakened a little bit. I was looking at the obs at 6 o'clock in Portland. It was moderate. It was moderate snow there. I bet you they went down to zero visibility for a short time when that cell went through. That's really impressive to see that far north.
Right, and the almanac, the Farmer's Almanac, is not in Portland proper. They're to the north and east of Portland, up in Lewiston, Maine.
Okay, so they actually would have gotten almost into the heart of that, the way
Right,
it looks.
right.
All right, so that was at least for the radar. I'm going to find that. Where's my satellite loop? I always lose these things. Nope, that's not it. Oh, by the way, that's not it. That's it. By the way, SPC this morning had had a marginal risk of severe weather, but they had it too far south. They had it
Right,
from
they had it
central
over
New
like central
Jersey,
New Jersey.
yeah, central
Yeah,
New Jersey down into northeastern Virginia, and then around two, right after I did my weather in 5 video early this afternoon, because I did it a little later today, they took the marginal risk down completely. And then as soon as they did that, the storms all blew up, and they blew up to the north of where they had it forecast.
right.
You know
Uh,
what? It's anybody who doesn't think that doing what we do for a living is a humbling experience, it certainly is. Uh, I would have also, looking at everything that I saw today, I would have bet that if there was going to be something from the standpoint of thunderstorms, in terms it would be in the warm sector the way SPC had it, and then they wound up being
in the cold sector.
well, and just north, because this is a look at this big occlusion that is lifting up and around that huge low that's on up into northern Michigan, and you had this big occluded front that just basically swung around. A secondary low forms at the point of occlusion, which I think the surface map is probably going to show pretty well by now. This is the let me bring up the 18Z surface map today. Come on, come on. 21Z, right in there, right off of east of Atlantic City. We've got 1,000 millibar low analyzed. You can see the primary low is a 984 on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. The occluded front swings down from there, right down into northeastern Virginia, and now you're getting that secondary low. And of course, pinched in between are the isobars from a high that is up in Labrador, that is built down from Maine southwestward into the Hudson Valley and into northeastern Pennsylvania.
And we said yesterday on the morning our morning discussion, we were talking about how low pressure would probably form on what we call the triple point. And yeah, it's kind of ironic, isn't it? You would have thought that if you were going to get any kind of significant convective activity, it would be in the warm sector, and that probably would have been somewhere south of New York City, maybe over southern New Jersey. And as it turned out, all of the action, a lot of the action took place well to the north and east, up across our area through Connecticut and on up into western and central Massachusetts. So you're right, it is a humbling experience. Just when you think you have it all figured out, Mother Nature decides to throw a monkey wrench in and say, "Hey, how about this?" Kind of like a meteorological knuckleball, so to speak.
Now, tomorrow is New Year's Eve, and Wednesday is New Year's Day. And I'm thinking, excuse me, I'm thinking pretty much should be a reasonably quiet day for us near the coast, but there actually might be a fair amount of snow around the Great Lakes and in lake effect land developing in western New York and in northwestern PA. But for folks heading out, if Times Square is your destination tomorrow night, I don't think it's going to be any big deal, other than maybe a little bit of a gusty breeze.
No, I think, in fact, the temperatures have been the projected temperatures for midnight tomorrow night in New York City at Times Square have been actually coming up a little bit. I remember, a few days ago, I posted on my Facebook page temperature at midnight around 37, 38. Then yesterday I changed it to 40. And now I think that it may actually be somewhere in the low 40s. Think about that, Joe. Low 40s. That's about 30 degrees warmer than what we had at Times Square at the stroke of midnight for New Year's Eve 2 years ago when the temperatures were brutally, I think it was the second coldest
Yes, I
ever.
remember that. I,
Yeah,
I, I remember that. Yes, second coldest New Year's Eve.
and also last year, of course, we had rainy conditions. So this actually will be a not too bad New Year's Eve from the standpoint of weather, low 40s. What do you think about the wind? Do you think there's really going to be any significant wind chill
I
factor?
don't know. I the high that's building in is way down in Texas, and while there is a little bit of a gradient, I've seen far tighter gradients. So I'm thinking, it might be a little bit breezy, but I don't think it'll be anything, anything crazy. And sometimes in Manhattan, you get that wind tunnel effect between the buildings. It always seems to be windy around certain street corners. But I don't think it would be anything unusual.
Yeah, I didn't really think that there would be all that much in terms of, I was thinking maybe around 10 mile per hour from the west uh,
Yeah,
under
10 to
clear
15,
skies.
10 to 15, maybe with the occasional gusty that gets up to 18 or 20. I don't think it'll be anything to write home about. I'm just running the NAM right now, and you see that lake effect for Western New York and Western PA for later tomorrow and tomorrow night. And then just kind of disappears during the day on Wednesday. New Year's Day looks like a pretty decent day. Upper 30s and lower 40s, I think, for highs should do it. And we've got a system. Let me just run it backwards. But there is a system there off Southern California that is dropping southeastward, crosses the Baja Peninsula through Mexico, that comes out the other side in the Western Gulf for later Thursday night. You start to see some rain. And I mentioned earlier today, you've got these surface highs going out off the southeast coast. That is usually what happens when you have a very progressive west to east flow. The highs come in, they go out, and when they go out that far south, there's no cold air anywhere to speak of. So when this system comes up for Thursday night into Friday morning, it's going to be mostly in the form of rain.
And it does not look like we're going to see anything. I've got temperatures in the Hudson Valley, Joe, on Saturday peaking out somewhere in the lower 50s.
Yeah,
Maybe some,
I agree. 50s for Saturday. We're going to
and
switch
then a
over.
sharp change to colder or chillier weather for Sunday and early next week on Monday.
Right, because this thing goes out. Actually, it's two pieces here. You've got a lead piece that runs out northeast, almost like a warm front that comes up on Friday, and then you have another low moves into the Great Lakes with some more showers, perhaps early on Saturday, and then gradually it will turn colder, but it'll probably wait until Sunday to do it. and there's a weak system that drops southeast on Monday. Now, the GFS has been uh, going, it's there one run, then gone for two runs, then it comes back for a run or two, then it disappears again. Well, we do have it coming. It came back to a certain extent late this afternoon. There's what looks like the model's picking up on a weak low in northern Alabama and northern Georgia with an area of snow that moves across Kentucky and Virginia with a low that passes off North Carolina and moves east northeast. I still think a window is there for something that could happen along about Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. But being that it's 8 days away, and being that the models have been so volatile with this particular view lately with what's happening in the upper air, I am going to reserve judgment on what's going to happen.
What do you think about the possibility of a flurry or snow shower tomorrow in the afternoon
Oh
for
yeah,
us?
why inland? Yeah, why not? The dam's got it. Why not? There's a that low is pretty big. You got a fairly deep trough. I'm looking at the upper air here for Tuesday, for tomorrow with the upper low in over Lake Huron, and it looks like there's a shortwave arm that swings through here tomorrow afternoon and evening. Yeah, throw it in. Put it in the forecast. You're a taxpayer, aren't you? By the
Yeah,
way, go ahead.
I'm still waiting, as I said yesterday, for that big New Year's Eve snowstorm, the blizzard that strikes at midnight, which at least through my lifetime has never happened. It's happened on a few occasions on Christmas or Christmas Eve, but always whenever we get to New Year's Eve, whenever we get to midnight, it's either something that happens before New Year's Eve or after New Year's Eve. It's never happened before. I just, again, out of curiosity, I'd be wondering whether or not all those people who stand around in Times Square for 4, 5, 6 hours before the dropping of that ball, what they would do if we indeed had, heavy snow, near zero visibility. We know that they come out in frigid temperatures like they did 2 years ago, but what would they do if they had all that snow falling from the sky around midnight? See,
they, they probably would find a way to enjoy themselves. I will never do Times Square. The idea of standing around and not having a bathroom nearby, especially as I get to a slightly more advanced age, right? That is
somebody
not.
would make out good if they were selling Depends.
Yes, exactly. I'm just looking at this upper air, Joe. You got this split flow that is been dominant here for weeks. You see that southern energy that comes out, and this is for Friday into Saturday. There's like an upper low. Why does it do this? It's got this upper low that dives southeastward on Saturday afternoon into Illinois, all the way down into West Virginia, and yet it doesn't seem to be doing anything with it.
I'm
Yeah,
just looking.
the upper air and the surface look totally like they don't match very well. I can see. So you got this lead system for Friday. Okay, I get that. And then you've got a low that runs up to the lakes. The upper low is actually dropping southeastward behind it. You would think that there might be, with a trough like that you get a wave at the last minute. And there's some hint of one actually on the GFS. I don't think it makes any difference one way or the other. Just seems like it has more of the development well to the north and east of where the upper support is. I'm just wondering about that. And then after that goes by, you've got this little diver for Monday, and that probably helps to bring in that somewhat colder air. And of course, if there's another short wave behind it, which on today's late afternoon GFS run, it says there is, it does produce a weak low that goes out to the south and east. So, I would not translate it. I did see somebody on the chat board calling this quote unquote substantial snow. I certainly would not label it as substantial snow with a low of roughly 1,018 millibars and not a whole lot of precip with it. So we'll see if this carries over into the next couple of runs. I think it's on the possibility of something is still on the table given the way the upper pattern is. And then going forward, let me just bring the whole upper air up. We'll go to the whole North America view here. So, we talked yesterday, Joe, about the vortex uh, running from where it starts off late last week near Alaska, moves over Greenland. Maybe if you get situations where that vortex teleconnects a bit, and you get a bit of a flow that sets up from Canada. You do have a weak upper flow that sets up from Canada late in the weekend and into early next week, and dropping into the east until we get to about January 9th. Then the GFS wants to bring drop troughing down in the west again, although it does swing an arm through late in the period, but it still keeps dropping troughs down into the west. So this, if you want snow in a situation like this, you've got to have everything line up perfectly, and you're not going to get a whole lot of inspiration from the longer term models because they're just too far out and there's too much variability. I think you're just going to have to hope, if you're a snow lover in our neck of the woods anyway. You're going to have something come out perfectly. You're going to have whatever cold air there is, time out perfectly for something to happen. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, things are just too fast.
Yeah.
At this time of the year, everything is moving along so quickly that to ask even, let's say, 5 days in advance, where a specific system is going to be. I won't say it's next to impossible, but the margin of error in terms of timing gradually increases or broadens out the further out you go. Again, there's too
Yeah.
many things happening, and over everything. When things move as quickly as they do, it's very, very difficult to try to pin down exactly where and when and what is going to happen. And if you have multiple systems, or if, for example, you're watching the northern stream and the southern stream, and there's the possibility of a teleconnection, one run may connect them, another run may not, and you end up seeing like a huge storm on one run, and all of a sudden the next run it shows something flat and bleh.
Oddly enough, Joe, I the CFS climate model, the one from 0Z Monday, which is the last one that ran, actually again now it is flipped back to a colder look. Starting from, this is January, I have the upper air for January 6th through the 13th on the screen, and I'll jump forward to the 13th to the 20th. Give me 1 second here. 13th to the 20th, the trough kind of shifts. The mean trough shifts a little bit back to the west. But from the 20th to 27th, going into the first few days of February and through the first 10 days of February, it does turn decidedly colder. So the climate models did this for January, and they kind of got it wrong for at least the first couple of weeks. Now it seems to want to do it again for the second half of January into February. So let's see if that affords any hope for winter weather lovers out there. I know the folks that don't like winter weather are jumping for joy that the way this pattern is right now.
You can't please everybody, Joe.
No, you certainly can't. So I'm going to bring us back full screen. This is our last show for 2019. And the next time you and I appear together will be in 2020 because you're busy tomorrow night. So, right? Am I right?
Well, if you're not doing anything, you can always drop over.
Well, you're 100 miles away. I can't just get on my broom and fly.
Well, we're just going to have originally just started as my wife.
I appreciate the invite, by the way. Thank you.
My wife and I originally we were going to be the sole survivors of the last day of 2019. Then my brother-in-law and his wife said they were going to be coming over, which is great. And now all of a sudden I found out a few hours ago that my son sounded disappointed. He thought he was going to have a real ringing time with some of his buddies, but apparently that fell through. So he and my future daughter-in-law will be here tomorrow night as well. So nice little gathering as we watch the ball drop via television. I would never go down to Times Square, as you already mentioned, to watch it. And it's a funny thing. If you want, people say, "Oh, I always wanted to see the ball." You can see the ball any day of the year. They after New Year's Eve, they bring the ball back up on that mast or that tower, and you can see it, anytime. It's there for all to see. So
New Year's was never a big deal for me. I never cared for it. First of all, I'm not a party person. Okay, the idea I did it. I did it once. Okay, and I did it by force. I didn't want to, especially because of the fact that I had 102 fever. Okay, and I was forced to go out to a dinner, and you go to if you go to dinner on New Year's Eve, it's foolish. Usually there are two sittings. You get a pre made meal and a fixed menu, and you're charged an exorbitant price, and the food's usually crappy. The people that are working don't really want to be there, and I was in a situation like that. It was in a nice place, but there was nothing special about it. And when you've got the flu and you've got 102 fever, uh, you really don't want to be out. But I was told that that's how you have a good time in New Year's, and I never. That was the first and last time I ever went out for New Year's Eve.
the only time I ever went out was well, actually, I've been out a few times, but the first time I ever went was in 1976. I went actually with my sister accompanied me along with my mom, and we were at this place in the Bronx. I forgot where it was. I know the band that was playing was Buster Long. Buster Long was leading his band or orchestra, trying to play the role of Guy Lombardo. And I remember this woman there was like a few tables away. She comes up to my sister and says, "Oh, you and your date look so nice tonight." And like my sister turns and says, "This is not my date, it's my brother." And the woman's face brightens. She runs back to the table, and there's a girl there, and she says loud enough for the two of us to hear. She says, "It's not it's not boyfriend, it's his brother."
You of course ran from there.
Stay,
Did you run?
stay away from me.
Yes. By the way, nature nature bats last says, and I think this is a very true statement. I never knew a New Yorker that went to Times Square for New Year's Eve. I
My
think, and that's probably a lot of truth to that.
My sister did. She did. She wanted to go. I think she went with some friends. She said she just wanted to see it or experience it once. And when she came back, she said, "Never again, never
No,
ever
like I said
again."
before, the idea of standing, because now when you go, once you go in there, you're trapped in there. You can't leave. Okay,
Correct.
and so you got people that are there. They're already there. Okay, they're there right now. But they get in there at 6 in the morning. They can't go to the bathroom because I don't think that you're allowed. The places that are along there are not going to let you. I mean, you could go to dinner at the Olive Garden. I'll let that stand on its own without any political commentary there. But it's yeah, most of the time if you're going to be there all day, you have to wear a diaper. If you got to go, you got to go. And stay away from espresso coffee, stay away from anything with fiber because you're going to be in huge trouble.
I could remember watching this event on television from way back when. Guy Lombardo, for
Oh, I
example,
was sure. That was
or
the big
Johnny
that
Carson used to do a show live, I think, on New Year's Eve. And then, of course, then it transitioned over to Dick Clark. And then from Dick Clark, now we have Ryan Seacrest. So we've gone through like three different generations of watching the ball drop. The guy who used to do this for NBC, he did it every year from Times Square. He would be on the marquee of the old Astor Hotel in Times Square reporting. An old time newscaster by the name of Ben Grauer. And Ben was there from the late 30s until his final year, I think in 1976, and then he passed away. He passed away, in fact, within a few weeks of Guy Lombardo. So the two guys who they said we're going to take New Year's Eve with us when we go. Well, they went, but they didn't take New Year's Eve with them because others have taken the New Year's Eve baton, so to speak, and are celebrating it in their own way.
right. And for the youngsters out there, Guy Lombardo, who goes way back, And I think back to the 30s and 40s. It was sort of an annual thing. CBS carried him. It would be from the Waldorf, and it was basically you had a big band orchestra
Right.
type.
The
And
Royal Canadians.
yes,
That was the name of the group.
and it was sort of a New Year's tradition until he passed away. He did he did he did do his show up until the year he died. Correct? They didn't.
Correct.
And then
Correct.
after that, New Year's has changed. I don't like it. I don't like the entertainment that goes on. It's just not, and I'm not I'm not a prude by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't know. I just find the whole concept to me, it's just not my thing.
And here's the irony of the whole thing. For years, as you just mentioned, CBS used to carry Guy Lombardo and the Royal Canadians at New Year's Eve. And now, if you check out your TV schedule, I believe it's going to happen again this year. It's been happening now for the last, I think, 15 or 20 years. CBS says, "The heck with it. We're not going to do anything." They're going to run probably a rerun of the Colbert Show, and before that, it was always Letterman. They don't do anything for marking the start of the new year. NBC, ABC, they have even Fox does something. CNN, of course, with their coverage, but CBS they couldn't care less apparently.
Bill Uber says I already did. He got a aged ribeye, two lobster tails, a king Alaskan crab legs. It's on the barbecue with a few cold ones with the bride. See, now I think that I go for. That's my kind of thing. I've always like, if you're gonna have New Year's, you have it with a small group of friends. Enjoy yourselves. That's perfectly fine. I just like I'm not. I don't like the idea of going out and, as you, Joe, like I said, watching it on TV. I'm going to be. There will be one of two things I will be doing tomorrow night, at 11:30. Either I will be live streaming here on YouTube, or I will be in bed, because a couple of people have asked me if I would live stream tomorrow night. So I'll have the New Year's show that everybody will be wanting to be on. But if I'm not doing that, and I'm not going to decide that until tomorrow evening. If I'm not doing that, I'm going to be in bed. I'm going to go to sleep.
Well, I'm going to. Of course, we'll have company here tomorrow night. I actually, when I was, I think it was right after we were married, maybe the first or second year after we were married, my wife and I, we actually decided we would lay down and close our eyes, and we actually slept through New Year's Eve that year. Phone
Nothing
rang
wrong
at
with
like
that.
12:05, and somebody woke us up and said, "Happy New Year!" And I said, "Oh, we missed it."
Yes, and then all the resolutionists will be at the gym on New Year's Day and for the first couple of weeks of January until they fade away, because they always do. So that's the that's the annual tradition, and we've got 2 long months ahead. January and February, I always felt like they were the two longest months of the year because of the weather, the time of year. Especially if you get into a pattern where it's cloudy and dreary, it can be you know, it can seem never ending, and that the spring is never going to get here, and yet somehow it always does.
You ever read the comic strip Luann?
No, but be careful if you're going to read it, because we could get a copyright
Oh,
violation.
really? I can't
Yeah,
read this. It's a poem by Luann
yeah,
about.
no, 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 don't. Yeah, because then it'll, it, they actually the bots pick your voice on the poetry. Remember that happened once before when I read something from TSL. I think it was TS
I
Eliot.
remember that. I
Yeah.
remember that.
Immediately you get the copy, we're investigating you for copyright violation. Oh, oh well. So, I guess that's it. There's not much else going on, so we can be thankful that the good Lord has allowed us to be on earth for another year, and we had fun doing our show together. And we'll have fun next year, which is almost here.
That's right. Almost here indeed. Well, I want to thank you for um, inviting me on to what basically is a Joe Chiaffi production, folks. And this
You
this
got wind of it.
and it's been great. Ever since we were brought together 3 years ago when we were at FiOS 1, the
Hmm.
late lamented FiOS 1 News.
Yes.
But now, in spite of the breakup or the defunction, I guess, of that particular news gathering
Nothing
organization,
could have kept us apart.
nothing,
Nothing.
indeed,
A
nothing.
little bit of technology, and it's a dangerous thing. And now that you got, boy, you do look sharp on that camera. You tell your daughter she did good with this Logitech camera she got.
Thank you.
You look very sharp. You're lit very well in that, as well,
Not
in your room there.
not as sickly as I normally.
Oh God. So you're no,
Friendship,
you're looking good.
friendship,
We're having
what's the
it's a
perfect
perfect
friend?
friendship when other friendships have been forgot.
Ours
Ours will
will still
still
be
be
hot.
hot.
Da 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 da.
Hip hip
Hip
hip.
hip hip.
You know, I can't remember half the time what I did yesterday or even this morning, but I remember so much of that stuff like that
Right.
from Cole Porter's friendship from I Love Lucy. Of course, now that we sang that, we probably get a copyright violation for that. Uh, but no matter. Um, yeah, it's a lot. I love that. I was thinking the other day about some some old shows that hadn't come to mind in a long, long time. And of course, being that I'm going to be 61, wouldn't you know, I forgot what those shows were that I was thinking about. But we were what we were talking about the other day. We were talking yesterday about what Alice Pierce from Bewitched, the original Mrs. Kravitz,
Right.
and then we had to look up the name who played Abner, which
Right.
was now I've forgotten again. Who played Abner?
I forgot too, Joe. I'm sorry.
Hold on, I'll look it up.
And by the way,
George Tobias.
okay.
George Tobias.
By the way, in the movie 20,000, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, which was on Me TV on Saturday night, I totally forgot that the very distinguished scientist who eventually got eaten by the beast was Cecil Kellaway, or Cecil
Oh,
Kellaway,
Cecil Calloway. Yes,
which I remember.
he was in a number of really wonderful movies along the
Right,
way. He was in The
right.
Postman Always Rings Twice. He was in
Guess who's
Guess
coming
Who's
to
Coming to
dinner?
Dinner. He
He played
was
Santa. He played Santa Claus on the very first Bewitched Christmas show, the black and white
yes,
show.
yes, correct. He was quite the character actor, and he shows up in a lot of different movies, spreading everything from comedy to drama to sci-fi. He did quite a bit.
Yeah, he was a great actor, and I didn't realize it until I'd seen that movie, that horrible movie, the other night. As I said, it was so bad it's good. The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, and I said, my goodness, that's Cecil Kellaway. All these years growing up watching that show, but I didn't know who Cecil Kellaway was or Cecil Kellaway was. You know who else was in that movie? It was the kid who played with in the movie Miracle on 34th Street, and he was the kid who hung around Santa Claus in that movie.
Oh yes, yes. I know who you're
The
talking
one,
about. His face is right in front of me.
the one who the psychiatrist said that he must hate his father.
Yes, exactly.
He was in
And
that movie too.
um,
So
I just want to say, by the way, hang on one second. Somebody, oh, I forgot where it was. Somebody, oh, I just want to mention because someone asked, Robert Brown asked me earlier for a link to SPC, the 5 and 7 day rainfall forecast. I put the link up there in the chat. But if you never need, or want a link, just message, put it on the message board. If you're a Patreon member, just message me there. I'm more than happy to find the link for you and get it to you. So don't hesitate, please. Jay Von Perry, thanks for hitting super chat tonight, by the way. And he's asking me my zodiac sign, which is I'm Aquarius. So I got a birthday coming up, and it's number 61.
okay.
I would prefer it would be 16, but they are what they are.
I personally can't believe that we're in our 60s. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it went quick.
it
It
did.
really went quick. Um, Somebody once told me that once you hit 50, it starts to go really fast. And I agree with that. It seemed like the stretch from 50 to 60 just went by so quickly. And now, of course, I'm 1 year into the stretch from 60 to 70, hoping that I make it to 70, God willing. But yeah, it just, the foot is on it seems as if the foot is on the accelerator now. So we got to enjoy every minute we got.
Indeed, indeed.
So, all right. So look, Happy New Year. Enjoy your dinner tomorrow night with your family. I will. Who knows what I'll do? Like I said, I'll either be asleep or I'll do a live stream at 11:30. We'll see. And what you got? What do you have going on New Year's Day? Anything special?
Nothing special. No, it'll be the day after New Year's. I'll probably be watching snippets of the Twilight Zone marathon, uh,
Yes.
or maybe the
Yes.
Honeymooners marathon.
Actually, you know what? You just now reminded me. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to see either on Netflix or on Amazon. Maybe it's on Netflix um, to see if Perry Mason is. I'm in the mood to watch Perry Mason.
Oh well, on MeTV it's on twice. The funny thing on MeTV, they have it widely separated. In the mornings right now, they're in year number or season number 2,
Right.
and at night it's season number 7, I think.
I have
So
seasons 1 and 2 on DVDs somewhere. I just can't seem to find those DVDs at the moment, but they are around someplace. But I've always, I could sit and watch Perry Mason for all, I could binge watch that all day long without
well,
any difficulty.
the funny thing about watching those first 2 seasons are at the end when they roll the credits, you can see the advertisements, the sponsors, and it's so funny to see the credits rolling
Oh,
by, and
that what was
there's
the
Beadzo bleach.
yes, there was some kind of you know some kind of abrasive soap like Comet too on one of them.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
so yeah, they had the logo there up in the corner. I like seeing the original opens on the show because when you catch them on DVDs and you see those as opposed to when you see the shows in syndication, you don't usually get the like a syndicated open that they cut separately.
right, right. And of course nowadays on a lot of those old shows, they don't even show you they'll show it to you, but they'll shrink it down to like the size of a postage stamp so that you can actually see
Yes,
the next show that's coming up already.
and the other thing that bugs me about it is too with these those shows actually went longer. They had less commercial time than they do
Right.
now. So they've been a lot of the old shows have been edited down so that you miss 3 or 4 minutes of programming because they're squeezing in extra commercials.
Correct.
So I'd rather see it on some, if you have them on DVD or you see them on Netflix, whatever the old shows are, it's great to be able to watch them without commercials. All
Right.
right, so look, either Wednesday or Thursday. If you're around on Wednesday evening, we could try it. I'll see how I feel New Year's Day. I'll send you a message early on if I'm going to do anything. Otherwise, if not Wednesday, definitely back on Thursday. Would that work for you?
That works for me, and I'm sure we'll have a big audience regardless.
Okay. Well, Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to all my audience. So again, like I said earlier, maybe tomorrow night at 11:30 I may pop on. We'll see. If
This
not,
reminds me, Joe. It reminds me, and this is why Bill Zimmerman, for those who don't know, he was a newsman, a reporter at ABC, and he was at CNN.
yes.
Then he came to News 12 Long Island. And I think it was New Year's Eve 1994. I I guess drew the short straw, and I ended up doing News 12 Long Island, the weather on News 12 Long Island on New Year's Eve night. And it turned out to be only two of the people were on the desk. There was Bill Zimmerman and sadly a young lady who passed away a few years ago, Nicole Nogood, who later changed her name to Nicole Bell. But
Yes.
I'm talking in terms of Bill Zimmerman now. He was always a very straight laced type of newscaster. He was, that kind of thing. He always very serious. Never showed much in the way of any levity or you know, any kind of funniness on the air. And when they threw it to me for the first weather on New Year's Eve, this is the 10 o'clock show, right? 10 o'clock on New Year's Eve. They throw it to me, and I stood there and right in front of the camera, I said, if any of you right now are watching me on your television, it probably means your New Year's Eve party was a flop. And I looked sideways at Bill Zimmerman, and Bill Zimmerman was like, I found out later on from our colleague at News 12 Long Island, Norm DeVoskin. Norm once told me many years later, he says, you know, Bill Zimmerman didn't really like you all that much. I said, I'll bet you I could trace it back to the moment when when that happened.
Well, Bill didn't live far, and I think he still doesn't live far from where I live. I would occasionally run into him at, of all places, Aiello Brothers pork store in Center Reach,
Yeah,
especially around holiday time. So
right.
he may not have liked you, Joe, but he partook in the favorite things that all Italians enjoy
But I told the
around the
truth, didn't
holidays.
I? I mean, if you're at your house, and of course we know that at News 12 they did one show live at 10 o'clock, and then they reran that ad nauseum all the way into the wee hours of the morning. So basically, if you're sitting there right now, let's say at the stroke of midnight, and you're watching me do the first weather forecast, and if
Yeah.
that's what you're doing at New Year's Eve, it means your New Year's Eve plans or your New Year's Eve party was indeed a flop.
Well, I never understood why they even, I guess they have to do coverage, to an extent, but for the most part, no one watches. I mean, who watches on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day? Who watches on Christmas Day?
You know,
Why even
at News
bother?
12, News 12 Westchester, they don't cover the ball drop at Times Square. They cover the ball drop in White Plains. Believe it
Right.
or not, they have a ball dropping at White Plains in the square there,
I think there's
and
something going
that,
on. There's one on Long Island now that they have.
they get a huge crowd that comes out in White Plains to do that. And being News 12 Westchester, they figure, well, we're as local news gets.
Right.
We have to cover the ball drop in White Plains, and so there you are.
Hey, like I said, I would never go down to Times Square. It's just not my thing. Maybe I would go to something like, to White Plains, or something on a smaller scale. That I might do, but it makes sense to me.
The,
And
the
you could
funniest thing I ever
pre-tape,
saw.
they could pre-tape the ball drop and do it at 6 o'clock.
The funniest the funniest thing I ever saw was they had my morning partner at News 12 Westchester, morning meteorological partner Bryson Van Eck, and they sent him out to do the coverage one year at White Plains at midnight. And just before midnight, he's interviewing people in the crowd, and he asked this one guy, says, "And how you do, sir? Well, and what's your name?" And he said, "My name is Thomas Roach." And he said, "And what do you do for a living, sir?" He says, "I'm the mayor of White Plains."
I bribe a dus. Robert Brown says they drop a possum in North Carolina.
I've heard that. You could drop anything you want at midnight.
Exactly. From how high up, Robert? I'm just kind of curious. I know you were kidding. Otherwise, all the PETA folks are going to be on here.
Yes.
All right, so we'll leave it at that. Happy New Year,
Happy
and
New Year to you, Joe.
we'll talk over the next couple of days. All right, and
Very
folks,
good.
thanks again for being here. Happy New Year to everybody. We'll see what happens tomorrow night, and if not, we'll see you at some point on New Year's Day.
I'm
Okay,
sure.
take care.
Au reservoir.
Au reservoir.